Hi guys, so I'm going to be doing a reading on King Charles's health. I had, excuse me, last time I read on him, I think was during my last live, which was on St. Patrick's Day. I picked up a number of cards that indicated he would be having some health issues, and I just want to check in on him and see what the cards have to say because he wasn't looking so great the other day. He is undergoing treatment after all. Sorry about my voice. So, when you go through treatment, chemo, as he's doing, I'm sure he's going to have days where he doesn't look particularly great. So I'll be using this beautiful new deck called the Oracle of the Rose, and it is by Zera, Zera DeRose, Derose. And it is just, I love the artwork. It's beautiful and fairly intuitive, easy to read. Not where you're like, what the hell? I got to look this up. So it says, discover the hidden secrets of your heart as you journey towards unconditional love for yourself. But oftentimes you can use decks that, like that, just in reading on other things other than, just let's say focused on the self. So, well, I'm game to try it because I've done it before. So I wanted to use this deck in reading about him, and let's see how it goes. So I'm looking at King Charles of England, and I'm asking to know what we need to know about his health. And I'm asking my guides and spirit to assist me in my reading so that I read accurately and clearly as I can, given my human filter. So what do we need to know about King Charles and his health, especially with concern to his recently diagnosed cancer? What can you tell us? Help us to understand what we need to know and be aware of regarding King Charles's health. What are the concerns? All right. I'm getting the Queen of Hearts, very nurturing, feminine card. And I'm getting Wisdom. Well, this could also be a very empathetic caregiver or doctor, quite possibly. And I get Wisdom. And I just kind of flashed on perhaps someone that is overseeing his health. It could also be Camilla, to be honest. But it did say Wisdom, so. Anyway. This is someone who is very wise. So they could be an older person. It's the feeling I get. And a very empathetic person, which often people who are in the medical field are often drawn to it as they are quite empathetic. Sip of tea. It's a good cup of English tea with real English tea. My husband made it. An Englishman from London. Chiswick. Okay. Let's focus on what is this woman to Charles, this Queen of Hearts who is offering wisdom. What about her? Definitely feels like an older woman, a woman that's over middle age. I'm getting Cupid, the Empress. And then, so I'm being shown two women looking after him. I think this is Camilla, that's his consort. And we get Cupid, so that's the romantic relationship with the Empress. So we're shown two women, a Queen of Hearts and Wisdom. These two women play a powerful role to him with regard to his health and his diagnosis. It feels very supportive at this moment. I'm not getting any cards that don't feel this very maternal, empathetic, um, very feminine quality of gentleness. So I feel like he gets the romantic uh, through the Empress, his consort, and perhaps through a professional level with this Queen of Hearts, whom I feel like is connected to medical field. Or has some wisdom in it. Okay, and we're being shown winter. That's interesting. I also note that winter is a season of dying back and kind of hibernation, so to speak, withdrawal. Um, Noticing the paleness of the card. But there's butterflies on it, and there's a transitional time with this. It's supposed to be a quieter time, winter. All right, now what's the pairing card? Rabbit hole. That's first thing that came to me was all of the crazy, I'm sorry, conspiracy theories regarding the royal family. There's some crazy stuff. Now, I know that some crazy stuff really does happen, for sure. But some people just got to take it to another level. And I get annoyed by that because that's not truth either. It's just an extreme notion. But I'm getting winter and rabbit hole. And this is difficult because this past winter, I think they experienced people trying to break into Princess Catherine's medical records. Like there was 3 people on the staff, apparently, that tried to do that. I don't know how they don't think they're not going to be caught. It just shows you the greed and the nosiness, how wrong that is. But this winter will be one that, this past winter will be one that will go down for the books this new year. Because there's something about the winter cycle that they've been going through. And a rabbit hole. Things go very, very deep, but there are also people that are looking for something that isn't there, in my opinion. It's shut down. It's not active. So this rabbit hole and something that's not active in winter, things hibernate, things slow down. Hopefully it means maybe slowing down of some of the really absurd notions that's out there about what's going on with him. I also feel that on a personal level, This could be his own winter of spirit and going down a rabbit hole himself in being reflective. I'm sure that with all that was going on with Catherine and himself and the big C word, I'm sure that he jumped down some rabbit holes of thought himself. And has looked with more depth. But if you stay too long, you can, I think, become disoriented. So, in the rabbit holes, there's some really unique vibes coming off that. This is a beautiful oracle. All right, let's see what's next. Next pair is trickery and B. Maybe this is about the them trying to break into her health records and lying. And we have the bee here, and the bee is active. It's, I think, also the queen bee, because there's a crown above her head. Makes me think of Catherine, not Camilla. Makes me think of the photograph, the people trying to con their way into her private records. There's no need to do that. But in all fairness, the family just should have been upfront. Okay. TikTok and intuition. All right. Definitely sensing that he's kind of tuning more inward now. And he himself may have some kind of sensitivity, like psychically, but his intuition seems to open up with this reflectiveness, I feel, that he's been having. And unfortunately, when I see this TikTok and intuition, the first thing I'm thinking of, he knows that his time is limited. He knows that he only has whatever it be, he knows that he only has a certain window. I'm trying to see what hands the clock is on this. It looks like 2:25 or something on one, and the other one's, I don't know, I can't see it. My eyesight's not good enough. It's too small. But anyhow, we're dealing with an awareness of time, and we're dealing with the intuition. I think that, again, what they've been going through and him having to pull back and take more care has been a real change. Hold on a minute. All right, next pair is the Dark Moon and Priestess. This makes me feel like Cancer right here with this Dark Moon, intuitively. And the Priestess, to me, is someone that treats this darkness, who knows about it and its hidden ways and tendencies. So again, I wonder if there are significant women in his healthcare or that help him to manage his health care, besides Camilla, that guide him, because this priestess is holding a lantern. And she is wearing a cross, so, and of course the name priestess, this could be, I don't know, she could be a spiritual counselor of some kind that he knows. That might be advising him. The dark moon can also bring not just only the problems with the health of the body, and particularly for him, but also I'm getting a state of mind. When I look at these two cards together, possibly some depression, a dark mood with the dark moon. We also need to realize that the dark moon is like the void. And I'm talking about the dark void that people see after they leave the earth. Sorry, gotta get comfortable. What am I getting from this? And I feel like the priestess is someone who knows how to explore that. And I think for healing again. So this could be an advisor that has a certain philosophy and is a deep thinker, you know. And we have disconnected, pairing with set sail. So he might be going about doing his things, I feel like doing these meet and greets, so to speak. That's probably very poor way to say what he does, but to the various engagements that he has, I'm feeling like he doesn't, it might be hard for him to feel present at times. He might be suffering from a sense of disconnection in the future. I just sense maybe a shift in mood and a sense of needing assurance. There's like some uncertainty, I would say, with this dark energy that's going to be around him. That's a bit mysterious. And I think he's going to have to use more of his intuition, which I think he might not have too bad of an intuition. I just don't know how much he utilizes it. But this is significant, especially when we get the cards that we did, the Dark Moon and Priestess, and then the sense of disconnection. And wanting to be free of it by setting sail, or wanting to progress past a sense of disconnection, wanting to move past it, wanting to move on. So that disconnection is telling me that he's not able to process something in order to move forward, I think, within his subconscious. What else are we getting? We're getting, this is so interesting. Now, remember what I just said? Unable to move forward, not free, not able to. This is free yourself. So I think a mood is going to take over him. He may have kind of a very dark night of the soul coming up to plumb the depths of. And I kind of got that with the rabbit hole as well. The first few cards I pulled for him. I'm sure he will try and mask this, but it's lingering. And summer. So remember we had winter, this past winter? Well, this summer comes with the words free yourself. So maybe he's going to feel more settled by this summer, more accustomed to the change in life that he's experiencing and think how things are going on. Because I think it rattled him for sure with set sail and the first card actually being disconnected. All right. So he's getting free yourself and summer. I think he could even have the seasonal disorder, but I'm feeling that he's going to have the opportunity during summertime to shift his thought process on something that has been depressing him. All right. These. Gentleman and knowledge. I have a feeling that he's doing a lot of reading, or he will be. And maybe of a particular author. And it could be about science, medical stuff. But I think he enjoys the research and looking into it. And there's 2 pocket watches on this card. Oh, what does this say? Ah. Oh, I think it just says the name of the artist. Okay. But there's also butterflies, there's birds, and books. So it's more like academia feeling to me. Because he's wanting to increase his knowledge, and there's a book that's open and a butterfly emerging out of it. You know, he might get involved in some kind of charity or what have you that increases, you know, maybe with the medical care. There's looking at that and appreciating the wisdom that comes from it. He could be reading more about treatments and this kind of thing. I get the full moon here and I get magic. Well, then I see him with clarity to some degree with the full moon, because that's the fullness of the moon, the light, which can be quite bright. But you still get a lot of shadows. You still have some uncertainty, but less than, let's say, the full moon, where he's in darkness. So that's interesting that to begin with, we get him at the full moon in that darkness. Now that darkness, that void energy makes more sense to me. But I think it's a metaphor for being ignorant. And I just feel that with gentlemen and knowledge, and then we're getting the full moon and magic, I sense that he's going to develop a much more enlightened understanding by educating himself, and I think encouraging this kind of education for the public. And magic to me is just even the human body and how it all works or doesn't. and how you can make it work, or how you can do different things to try and treat something. There also may be something new added to his treatment with the full moon and magic that might be very effective. Let's just see what the next cards convey. Listen, there's a person playing a cello. There's a full moon there too, in that, and a lot of flowers. So listen. Oh, and faith. Again, listen to your inner voice. Listen to yourself, going within. You know, I think getting medical understanding and science understanding, but also trusting and developing your intuition, going within. So we have listen and faith. And faith is you don't know for certain, but you have hope that things will work out. And you operate out of a place of hope and optimism rather than pessimism. So I also feel that with maybe some of the mood issue, like I said, there might be some depression or really getting down. I think he's going to be able to shift out of that by learning how to use his intuition and putting it to work. But I feel that when he does this, he tends to has to kind of close off or be on his own to kind of process and become clear on this. There's a Celtic cross stone, and it could be a headstone with faith. But there's also an arched doorway or walkway. Which is a transition point from one place to another place. So he's to pay attention to optimistic, positive encouragement. Because although you don't know exactly what's going to happen, you're going to go and do better with a more positive state of mind than a negative, dark, heavy one. And that's for sure with your health. I can testify to that. We get the Tower coming up, though, and we get soulmates. So there's some kind of a breakdown with someone he's very close to, or there's something that could be disruptive to their relationship potentially too. Now that would have to be, I would imagine, Camilla. Although soulmates doesn't have to be someone that you are involved with in a romantic way. It can also be your friend, truly just your platonic friend can be a soulmate. Your dog or cat can be your soulmate. But it's just another creature that you feel very close to and have probably experienced other lifetimes with. You've got a real strong bond. And so I'm not quite sure who this would be, but we're getting some kind of breakdown with someone that he's very close to or feels very significantly close to. And I got to think Camilla. But let's just see. There's other people, I'm sure. But there's something that happens again, or I just feel like this year is unpredictable with things happening where people really go through a very life altering change. But it's to get them to live more authentically. When you get the tower, it's so that you can rebuild in a way that is reasonable, that is based on truth and not upon denial and misdirection and ego. So there is some kind of stunning, maybe initial setback with regard to someone he considers as a soulmate. There is disruption. What else? We get release. Again, a bird coming out of a cage, two of them actually. And we get masquerade. Could it be his brother? I don't know how close he is to Andrew, but I don't think he'd be that. Honestly, I don't think so. Anyway, I kind of get a sense of some masquerade, something that they didn't share or they held back, covered up, comes out. Release. Maybe a part of them that they would like to have hidden. That might be Andy. Maybe, but maybe somebody else. Maybe there's something unflattering or troubling. I don't know. But we are definitely getting a release from holding up a front, putting up a front, not having to wear this mask anymore. So, some kind of change. Maybe there's a limitation on her, on Camilla, that is going to be broken down or changed. I'm not quite clear on the rules, but where he would be separated from her. But there's also this feeling of closeness. So what might break down is some means of being able to be close, or some rule or regulation that's really based on stuff that doesn't really matter. Maybe that's it. But there is the release from some sort of having to put up a front or having to act other than you really feel. Not saying that you go and let it all hang out, but just being more transparent could also be something that hits home. Interesting. Yeah, those are the ones I've read. I'm just going to go through the rest of the deck and reading on. Okay, now we get Boundary and Queen of Fire. I felt like Queen of Fire was actually chemo. That's what just came to me. And Boundary, I feel like there's something within the body. Maybe there'll be direct targeting, the treatment to deal with his specific area. It could also be like it's definitely some sort of limitation with chemo. Getting a lighthouse and the sun. Well, the lighthouse is a warning as well as it's being a beacon. And you are watchful in order so that you don't steer your boat wrong and end up in a shipwreck. So there's the sun. So I think there is something to regard to treatment and paying attention to doing what he's told to do, not, you know, doing more of what he wants, but more of like looking for, not wanting to push those boundaries, so to speak. He's looking for guidance, looking to avoid not doing everything he can in order to heal. So I feel this is working with specialists that can guide and steer him on how to care for himself, what kinds of treatment he should undergo next. People that specialize in the knowledge of treatment of cancer, and particularly radiation. Hmm. Hmm. I also sense maybe like X-ray, looking at something, or imaging would become clear. But more so radiation is first off. All right, we're getting night garden and decisions. Ugh. Well, the first thing I thought of when I thought of night garden, it was the Garden of Gethsemane, where Christ had his uh, moment to feel all the feelings and question, why he was going through what he was, thinking he was forsaken. And I'm getting a similar feeling here. And maybe going through some uncertainty where decisions are concerned. What would be the best decision? And I feel like you got to find someone that knows how to really deal with hidden aspects of that disease. And I can't help but feel that they're definitely looking for those that can give the best advice. One says this way, the other one says, that way. So there could be getting some contrary advice that is confusing to him. And he may not be sure what would be the best course to follow. I'm getting grounded and solitude. Well, this makes me sense. There's chains that sweep over this, through this beautiful picture of someone trying to rise up with this balloon, but instead they're becoming more grounded. They're grabbing on to, oh, those aren't chains, those are vines that have twisted around, but they've formed a link. Interesting. In solitude, definitely more time alone to think about things. and think things over. So it looks like he's going to come to a moment where he isn't sure about what would be the best treatment or way forward with, I think, his care. We're getting carousel and strength. Well, with carousel, I'm getting needing to make sure that he's doing some things that he enjoys, some things that make him more lighthearted. And strength is, it gives you the fortitude, the gentle fortitude where you handle yourself with great regulation and not overreact or underreact. There's also someone that influences him to enjoy himself more, to lighten up a bit. And that actually creates an inner strength, that you're not reacting with just raw emotion all the time. You're thinking about it. And we do see him pulling back and thinking, and he might pull back from some activities at some point coming up in the future, because it looks like he was going to be considering maybe something to do with treatment, and it looks like he might be kind of stuck where advice is concerned. Again, gentleness goes with strength, and that gentleness is a strength rather than aggression. So it might also be that more gentle care might be actually more beneficial to him than aggressive care. And I'm getting emerge. And I think this is something that is going to come about, something that's going to be evident for him. That it emerges that he's got to really be more concerned with his health instead of pushing it, this kind of thing. And forget the stiff upper lip. You know, that's foolish in this case. You have to take care of yourself and not respond. And it's responding in a measured way, in a sensible way. Real focus on that. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Communication. And we get a telephone here and two birds with top hats. And we get leap of faith. This makes me feel like he's going to be reaching out and just taking a leap of faith, maybe sharing something new, maybe in interviews and such things. But I see him trying to work with sharing information, what he's learning. Could also be that he's willing to try different therapies, different modes in conjunction to Western. So maybe becoming a little more open-minded through Cancer. We get the end, which actually may be actual passing, and we get epiphany. So this is a new understanding, a eureka. And it might be a better understanding of death. And an end of cycle. Could also be a sense of, once again, having a limited window, that there is an end in sight or an end that is coming. Feeling like an end is coming. Could be that intuition. Home. Oop. and beginnings. To me, I almost want to say this is our true home, where we start afresh after having been on our last Earth visit. Once we've been cleared of the energy that's heavy from the Earth on the other side. So home and beginnings. After the end and epiphany. It could be also a change to things that really don't work for him within his home, or that need to be changed in order for his treatment while he's home. Somehow, who knows, maybe this is kind of remodel even, given health concerns. But there's something new starting, and it is focused on his home. Maybe starting to do where he receives certain care at home. Maybe it's the end of needing to go to elsewhere. I'm not sure, but it's interesting in beginnings because there's an egg that's cracking open. What else do we get with that? We get innocence, oops, and the emperor. That's him. And it is like looking through the eyes of a child. We have an older man in the emperor, the king, King Charles. But there's this very childlike energy here of innocence. And to me, these cherubim are childlike and open. They don't have the constraints that ego creates in their perspective. So maybe there's a focus on trying to have more fun, trying to lighten up, trying to see as one does through the eyes of a child, and enjoying the small things in life, and putting more awareness there. But it's a purity of spirit. All right, let's see what else. Set in stone and integrity. Well, there are certain, I think, rules that you don't break, and that's where you have set in stone. But integrity is one of the things that shouldn't be dismissed or taken lightly. So to me, this integrity and set in stone, let's pull a few more with it. We have celebration and journey. I think there is something that he created that's to somewhat kind of fated with the set in stone, something that he must deal with, and it is the issue of integrity and what it means to him. Journey and celebration. To me, it's the journey and the celebrating the journey of life, celebrating experience. And I almost get a feeling like his integrity will be more important to him. Like if I say I'm going to do something, then I need to be there. Maybe this is a birthday party even that he's thinking I said I would be there. I need to show up. I'm kind of getting that kind of a vibe too with the set in stone and integrity and then journey and celebration. But walking your talk. Balancing act with regard to his health and rose glasses. So while he wants to stay positive, he doesn't want to go from extremes, from being pessimistic or overly optimistic. There's a fine balance that needs to be struck. So this is reminding him not to be in denial, though, because that's not being optimistic. It's not being reasonable. That's seeing through a filter of what you would prefer than rather what is. So dealing with issues of denial, dealing with being transparent, I think this is going to continue to be a theme for him. And he's going to be, I think, kind of learning from the mistake that was made with Catherine in keeping it back. And I think he's just going to be more forthcoming when it comes to his treatment and how he's doing. But there's a balancing act. He needs to make sure he's not doing too much, because he can overexert himself while he's getting treatment very easily. I think he could also be pressured into, by his advisors. You can do that. It'll be all right. So it's a balancing act, and he needs to pay attention to his health. We get storm and remember. Because I think he's going to have some times where he, like I was saying earlier, feels really poorly, and other times where he feels a bit better. But he's going to have to remember that these cycles come and go. There's also remembering going through tough times might help him in dealing with things, because there is a struggle, and he might be relying upon his memory of the past to help him through the storm. And I get a sense of his health being up and down. We get self-love, these are the last two, and focus. Again, he needs to learn how to take care of himself and make sure that he is not being too old school and stubborn. It's serious about resting after his treatments, and his need to be less critical. I think he's going to change a lot, and I think he's going to gain some depth with this illness. This illness has a lot to teach him. So that's quite interesting. I do see his health being rocky off and on from treatment, where he's going to go through very trying times, which is not surprising. Now this is a deep dive, so I'm going to go ahead and use another deck. Mystery of a Lover's Journey card. Let's just see what we get. Let me just pause this and shuffle. Okay. What do we need to know about King Charles' health? I'm asking my guides, my ancestors, my angels. Let's see what we get. I'm getting captive. Okay, again, like I said, he needs to to focus on his care and self-love and nurturing himself instead of like tough it up, you know. Um, this says captive. This says limitations, imprisonment, restrictions. He's going to have to learn that he's got those. And he might feel captive by it, but he's going to have to deal with it. I think he's going to find the days where he doesn't feel good from treatment to be very miserable and hard to manage at first. I think it could get him down. Burnout, yep, drained, fatigued, exhaustion. So captive and burnout, being drained and feeling exhausted and fatigued and feeling these frustration of limits as a result, feeling like he's stuck, feeling like he's imprisoned by this disease, and that it's restricting his energy level, in particularly with these two cards. I think also the treatment to deal with the darn disease. There is the card of intrusion, and this is a third party, and there's a negative aspect, attachment of influence. Okay. And then there's resilience, where you're enduring and you're facing the unknown with a great deal of persistence and bravery. So I sense he's got some people giving him bad, again, funky advice, and he's just going to have to rely on his own intuition and inner strength, because I think he's going to find some people that try to give him advice intrusive. And I think he'll learn that he's got to be much more resilient and patient rather than just lose his temper. He's getting the card of fate, divine plan, intervention, divine timing, and he's getting obstacles, trials, challenges, long journey. So this is a very specific experience that he's chosen to take in this earthly life. And it's because it affords him a great deal, potentially, of growth. And this has a certain element of timing, earth-wise. And yeah, again, trials, challenges. It's going to very much challenge him, this treatment that he's got to go through. I feel like, again, there might be more lethargy, brain fog than he's anticipating with some of these treatments. It's just a real energy I'm picking up on. We get risk, leap of faith. He had that with another card, and uninhibited, and chances. So I think he is going to definitely be less conservative and much more assertive, where he has to chance something or risk not feeling well or becoming more ill. Maybe he'll be more willing to take treatments that he needs to be more open to. There's infinite love, unconditional, wholehearted selflessness. I just feel like he undergoes a change, and a change of perspective. We have our black cat wanting to come up. Bear, why do you do this? I don't have any treats right now. Okay, we get escape, and this is about avoidance, blocking out, running, wanting to deny. And for the sense of peacefulness, ease, tranquility, blocking out. I think he's just going to be have to block some things out for his own peace of mind. But he should not be in denial. He should not uh, run from things, because avoidance, you've got to find good coping mechanisms. I think he just wants to have some tranquility, to have some ease, to have some peacefulness, and maybe more time alone. But I think he's going to have more time where people are, his health. I get awareness, depth, consciousness, understanding, and intimacy, comfort, closeness, emotional depth. But I think it will draw him closer to Camilla, and with within that relationship, there is going to develop a greater depth. I think he's going to become more reliant upon her emotionally. We get the card of seduction, alluring, captivating, enticing, and temptation. Attraction, curiosity, drawn. Well, that's certainly intimate desire. I think he'll find her perhaps all the more attractive and drawn to her. He really has a thing for her. I get hopeful. Again, we get the faith card of manifesting change, trusting the process, and mixed signals. But there's some kind of inconsistency with his treatment that he's going to have. Wishy-washy. There's some kind of confusion, and he's just trying to be hopeful and trust the process. I get determination. He's determined to beat this, but wounded, unhealed trauma, haunted past. To me, when I look at these two of pursuit and wounded, especially this rose with the black on it, again, I'm feeling like the Cancer, being in pursuit of it, trying to, eradicate it from the body. I think it's going to be more of a challenge than he anticipated. There's rescue, calling for help, reaching out, and detachment. Disconnecting. We had that before with him, with disconnecting, with the other deck. Fading away. It could be, again, the start of where he's sensing that he's getting really depressed and he might reach out. There is mourning and there is admiration, highly valued, emotional suffering, grief, loss. I don't know if this is unresolved grief to do with his mother, or if this is, because there's a crown going above her head, or if this is with Camilla. But we have this fading away card and rescue, calling for help, reaching out, and fading away. There's something that is a hidden factor. It could be hiding some behavior that's maladaptive. I also feel like it's a part of maybe the disease that he's being treated for that has a pretty powerful effect, but it's kind of unclear how things are going to go with responding to treatment. That's interesting. Interconnected, mirroring, reflecting each other's shared energies and rarity. I think he's going to be very, very grateful for family like Catherine going through treatments and sharing that understanding and valuing it very much with rarity and valued, incomparable, only you, mirroring, reflecting each other, shared energies. There is guarded caution, boundaries, protection, and fairy tale illusions, unrealistic ideas, hopeless romantic. Um, I think he's guarding from, trying to really guard himself from being unrealistic. So it's trying to find the balance of what is being, take the right attitude. It's kind of adjusting here and growing in that regard. And I get forgiveness, resolution, making amends, second chances, and I get illusion, fantasy, clouded judgment, disillusioned. So he might change so much that he looks, what am I getting from that? I think he's going to admit that he had bad judgment, or I think he's going to try to make amends with people, or he's going to feel that making amends is very important toward, I feel like, the end of his life. He's going to realize like he didn't use proper judgment and how he responded here and there. I get patience, waiting, there can be delays, and debate, uncertainty, indecision, contemplation. My sense of it is he's going to have to learn patience with this disease. There's going to be a great deal of uncertainty with it, a great deal. I constantly am getting from different decks messages of uncertainty. Divine counterpart, soul union, unbreakable connection. To me, that's Camilla again. And this time, look, here's the lighthouse here. Return, guiding light, reunion, full circle. I think she's going to help him through this and be his light in the dark, to negotiate around obstacles with concern to healing and treatment and living, and they will grow even closer. I think be really her spending more time with him. Masculine energy, yang, logical active, and we get worries, apprehension, inhibition, and fear. I think he's got concerns about not being man enough, not being manly enough, macho enough. Doesn't want to look like, oh, he's a little baby. I think being so vulnerable, being ill, makes him very uncomfortable as a man. I think he's concerned that he doesn't respond to this too childishly or not mature in some way. He wants to keep his mind out of the fear zone, but I think he's having a bit of a struggle. I do get him being kind of haunted by worries and wanting to pull back, but he realizes that that would not be always in his best interest. Could be that he'll worry for his sons as well, that they too could inherit that. We get recovery, timeout, healing, but this is like a lengthy amount of time. This isn't just a real quick, oh, I'm better. And there is karma, cause effect, from his own free will and choices. So, again, if he can make his health a priority and self-care a priority, he will do much better. But I think he's going to really struggle with the aspect of not feeling like he's in control and he's vulnerable and sick at certain times. I think he's going to lean pretty heavily on Camilla. And again, this recovery and karma, I think, was something that he wanted to do for self-growth. Often, illnesses are a means for the soul to grow, truly, because you can't be inundated the way you would with having to go to work, so on and so forth. You have to take time because your health forces you. We get damaged, destruction, brokenhearted, crushed. And we get the card of dwelling, memories, holding on. Again, to me, it's where your mind is at. If he's not careful, I think he can go to a place of great suffering. And I think for him, it takes a great deal of strength to move forward and in and around this destruction to his health, his body. And I think he's remembering in the past where he was younger, didn't have this issue, reflecting back on that life before it. Resistance, urge, fighting it, suppression, longing, pining, craving. Again, I think he really feels at some point like things are out of his hands in a way that frustrates him, and that he longs for that kind of freedom and control again, but he's not going to have it. He's going to have to mind his health and keep it in front of him. And rather than see it as just a prison with no value, he needs to utilize his time that he's healing better. I think that's where he gets, overwhelmed. Instability, emotional, intense feelings, and closure, endings, completion, finality. To me, that's passing, potentially, and a whole lot of feelings about his own mortality may come up. That's a real tipping point for him. Breaking point, tension, stress, limitation, and hopeless, despair, giving up. Well, there could come a point where that he kind of surrenders with this disease, and not necessarily that meaning that he gives up. I think it might mean that he gives up trying to control it and learning that he's got to work with it to deal with it better, rather than trying to overwhelm it, because it's just going to be overwhelming to him. Alignment and played out. So that can be where you're deceived, played out, taken advantage of, manipulated, and there's alignment, stability. To me, this is avoiding a message that he needs to focus on creating balance and harmony and stability in the face of deception or people doing things where they're taking advantage or trying to be manipulative. He needs to keep out of the drama and the stress, is what I get. Because I believe that some of these treatments are going to make him feel quite unwell at times. Pact and stillness. Silence. Promises, fidelity, vow, idle. Is this a pact or an agreement that he focuses on? There is stillness, or is not honoring? I'm not sure. It makes me think it's with Camilla. There is being blinded and some kind of denial or unaccountability and a barrier that creates a separation from wholeness. There's some things that he's definitely going to be in denial about. He's not going to want to answer to or take account. He's going to want to put distance between him and that. But I think he's going to find he's going to have to answer to this. Detox, purifying, purging, energy cleanse. I think there will be a lot of stuff going on while he's physically undergoing this treatment. The detox, maybe from the treatment, purging his system. He'll have a great deal of confusion and possibly anxiety and brain fog. That comes up. So again, I think some of these treatments are going to create some real challenges for him to do his duties. And he's going to find that he's got more and more to really be able to focus on his health solely, I think. Compromise. This is negotiating our middle ground. It's trying to squash tension and old flame. Past love, something that's also lingering or unresolved. And he'll have to compromise on it. Okay. We get solitude and feminine energy, seclusion, inner reflection, withdrawn. Yeah, I do. I get a sense of him focusing on receiving the nurturing he needs and the self-nurturing that he needs. More time alone to reflect, where his aids and things are not bothering him. I think that there's some feeling of vulnerability where his sensuality and sexuality are concerned. I know we don't want to I don't want to know, TMI. But I also feel like it opens his heart more. It makes him more deeply passionate and not just superficially. I think his appreciation and his openness to feel and receive emotion are going to deepen through this. Instead of this poker face, the royal poker face. So we get discretion and we also get exposure, revelations opening up. makes me think once again, there will be people that leak information that are connected. They might share things about his health. Manifestation, which is imagining, daydreaming. They might even not tell the complete truth. I get sparks, intensity. I think that they might say something or leak something that might not be, or that might be really personal, maybe with that low key and exposure. Because I see a very passionate response with manifestation and passion, and that people will speak up, maybe even get annoyed or worked up as this information, I feel like, spreads. And we get clarity, epiphany, realizations, a perspective shift, and devotion, dedication, loyalty, and trust. Well, I think this is learning and trusting the information. There's something that they may share because they feel that it will help people to better understand. I don't know, that's what I get. I don't feel like that's the king. I feel like it's somebody around them that like leaks some information or something. I get scarred, which feels like somebody burned you, somebody screwed you over, and I get missed opportunity, disregarded, disappointment, regret. Real sense of disappointment. I think he too is going to have people leaking information before he can share it. There are distractions, detours, sidetrack, off course. I think dealing with that is going to take a lot of energy away from his focus on healing, soul growth, transcendence, spiritual advancement, evolution. And there is, yeah, there's a need for him to be focused on his care, not distracted. Because the care helps him to undergo the soul growth that he's been looking for. Again, I think learning that we're all one. And I get loose ends, unfinished business, no closure. They're the one. It could have to do, because it says also destined to be. It could have to do with kind of handing the keys to the crown to William. It's getting the loose ends taken care of. There's some masking, some hiding of true emotion, because there is yet a hang up through being obsessive and trying to control things, holding on to the last minute. Moving on, walking away, evolving, and accusations, projection, blame game, finger pointing. I think he'll outgrow where he would project or blame. I think he's going to grow up in some way himself to where he takes more accountability rather than blame. I don't know if he's done that or what, but that's what I get. I get a card of a past life, familiarity, repetition, deja vu, incompatibility, in sync, solid connections, similarities, and familiarity. It makes me think he's going to undergo some kind of spiritual epiphanies too that are private. He probably would not share that. But there's greater understandings he's going to experience through a lot of discomfort. And we do get dissatisfied with being going through, like I said, discomfort. And we have attachments. And that's attachment to outcomes, attachment to where you can't just allow things to evolve and be. You have to try to control everything. There's a lot of codependent energy, too, that he's got to work through. Okay. We get anger, resentment, bitterness, disagreements, incompatibility. And I think he can really hold a grudge. And there's some dark energy there that he's going to have to work on with where resentment is concerned and where he isn't compatible. I think he's going to be conflicted about some options or choices that he needs to make. And I think there's somewhat some kind of guilt over his past ways of dealing with things. He too gets the prying, piqued interest, mystery, intrigued. People are going to want to know stuff. And we get disillusioned, let down, unmet expectation, disappointment. People are going to be disappointed. I think, again, we're going to have a lot of conspiracy theories flying around with his health, and people are going to want to pry. And there's a sense of disappointment with that. They will also not get what they're looking for, people that pry. Because the truth, exposure, honesty, and obsession, attachment, consume, fixated. People fixated on knowing the truth, I think he's going to realize that he just needs to continue to be upfront so that people don't feel like they've got to create some crazy stuff in their notions in their heads. So I feel like that's trying to deal with people that want to pry into his business and that they're obsessed with finding out the truth. We get upheaval, trouble, chaotic energy, and disturbance. We get a new chapter beginning, fresh start. So I think he's going to really end up going after people that create chaos and disturbance, especially maybe the paparazzi too, that and the type of journalists that are obsessed with exposing private information that we don't need to know that much, It's got that going on. Okay, so there's your deep dive on King Charles's health concerns, the things that he's going to be going through. I'd say within this reading feels like probably the next 6 months to a year. And I think some of these treatments are going to be, like I said, pretty harsh at times. He's got a lot of ups and downs. He's got a long road to toe. So that's my reading on King Charles. And I do think he's going to be working on preparing to have things in place at some point for William's taking over in case his health gets to be too difficult and he needs to pull back and focus on it. I feel like I was being shown that he'll be working on that while he's ill. And he may have disappointment where some treatment's effectiveness overall turns out. He could go through stages of depression and anxiety. And I really feel he'll do like a lot of shadow work, more shadow work with this illness. So I'm going to leave it there because it's already an hour and 30 minutes. And this was a deep dive on King Charles. If you enjoyed this kind of reading, please give me a thumbs up. If you'd be so kind, make sure you're subscribed and hit the notification bell. Thank you so much. I will see you in the next video. Bye.